Well, today, the 12th of May, is International Nurses Day, and it marks the anniversary of the birth of the Lady of the Lamp, also known as Nurse Florence Nightingale. She was a Victorian nurse renowned for her love and dedication to the nursing profession. We're joined in studio now by Gauteng MEC for Health, Ms. Tridani Mahlangu, and Assistant Manager for Trauma at Charlotte Maxeke Academic Hospital, Jolene Fenyana, to discuss this important day in international medicine, specifically with regard to the nursing profession. Ladies, thank you for coming in, and it's lovely to see both of you.
And thank you very much.
So I suppose, what do we say on a day like this when it is International Nursing Day? I suppose I have to wish you something, or do I just simply say thank you? Thank you for the work you do for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, because, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, it's a selfless job. It really is. It's a difficult job. You work under difficult circumstances, and I think being a nurse is more of a calling than anything else.
Of course.
Would you agree with these sentiments?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
Calling from God.
It is. What made you go into this profession?
You know, it's so fulfilling to help somebody that is out there that is helpless, and to see this person coming to the hospital and going back home healed and walking. It's really fulfilling.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, one can only imagine. But MEC, when we look at a day like this, what does it mean for the nursing profession in South Africa?
Just maybe before I respond to that, I just say that our sympathy is going to the Mompati family.
Thank you.
We've lost a stalwart. We've lost an icon, a woman who led the struggle for women and the struggle in general. And we can only say to her family, we all have lost an icon, and we can only promise that we'll take the baton from as a younger generation and make sure that women are at the center stage of the South African development in the post-apartheid South Africa. Just to say that the issues around nursing in our context, the nurses, we say every day, they're a backbone of the healthcare system, both private and public. And today what we are celebrating is the International Nursing Day. Therefore, we should recognize the role played by each and every one of the nurses wherever they are in the corners of South Africa for going out and do more with less resources. What am I meaning by this, Leanne? You'd know that some of the nurses will see about 90 patients, and I'm talking about real example. We're in Soshanguve last week. Patients told me that a nurse who initiates and follow through ARV patients, she sees about 90 patients a day. She does not take tea breaks. She does not have lunch because she's the only professional nurse who's available. Others are attending courses and all of that. So these are the nurses who are celebrating, and we simply say to the generation of Sis Jolene, can you please make sure that you mentor and you look after the younger generation so that indeed they can proceed with the values that Florence Nightingale stood for, and many, many other nurses after her. Yeah,
indeed. You know, we talk about it being a selfless profession, and a profession where it is a dedicated and it's a calling, but at the end of the day, it comes with a lot of difficulties, and we can't ignore them on a day like this. So, you know, you are an assistant manager at a public hospital in a very busy hospital. What are some of the challenges that you are faced with on a daily basis?
The challenges that we are facing is the shortage of staff.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, much as we are facing the shortage of staff, we still stretch beyond what we are facing. How can we offer the best to our community out there? We utilize the available resources. It can be the human resources or the material resources, but at the end of the day, we don't even forget the ethical issues around looking after these patients. Remember, you have to maintain, do no harm, do good at all times towards the humankind, and you must treat every patient with fairness and justice. We don't forget that ethical issues. And the challenges of the shortage of staff in the hospital, the scarce skills, we still want them. Remember, I'm the specialist nurse, I'm the trauma and emergency nurse, I'm the ICU trained nurse, and globally it is needed all over.
Indeed.
Indeed. And then if you don't have the specialist nurse, how will you manage? With competences, with skills, with knowledge. We need all the competences so that we nurse this patient holistically. So if the shortage of the skilled nurses, the skillful nurses, the shortage of the scarce skills that is needed all over the world. You go to US, whenever they see my name, they want to grab.
That's it.
But
and that's the question I want to lead from what you're saying onto the MEC.
Yes.
Because it is happening. It is a reality. Nurses are leaving South Africa and they're going and working elsewhere where they feel that the environments perhaps support them better. But how do we stop this? Because we so desperately need these nurses to stay. And we're focusing in on nurses because it is Nurses Day, but this we find across the whole medical profession. What do we do, MEC?
Firstly, you remember that in 2009, government introduced what you call occupational specific dispensation, which enabled nurses to be paid based on their specialties, also based on the fact that we want them to stay in the public sector. So I think there are initiatives to make sure that nurses are well remunerated. But over and above that, also there are countries that we are talking to say, for instance, in the UK, can we please collaborate so that we do not recruit our nurses? However, I need to emphasize the point that Sister Jolene has made that, for instance, in the UK, most of the nurses are not British. They are from all over Asia, Philippines, and then all of that. So therefore, we need to find a mechanism of retaining South Africans in South Africa. But over and above that, of course, we can go to this extent in remunerating people in this globalized environment. It's going to be very difficult to force people to stay when they think somewhere else they've got greener pastures. And I also want to emphasize the point that Leanne, that as we train more nurses, we need to emphasize that specialization is important, because the more you specialize, the better you are going to be remunerated and all of that. That is why we are working on making sure that we've got the advanced midwifery, because that's where we are lacking, hence our maternal mortality rates are so high. Secondly, we're also specializing in ICU, because we also need specialized nurses in intensive care. The third area of specialty is trauma. The sad reality, though, that the trauma issues, we can train so many nurses and so many other people, but the bottom line is that South Africa as a society, we must deal with the challenges that come with violence and alcohol. On Sunday, I walked into Charlotte to go and pick up my niece there, who was in trauma. I was shocked at how many patients were in trauma, all of them waiting to go to ICU just because they were beaten up. Some of them drove and got involved in accidents. So these are things that hospitals can't do much. They can only treat a patient and make sure that someone gets better and they go home. However, if society deals with alcohol and violence, we would not have those patients occupying those critical beds which we need to treat severe illnesses.
Thank you for talking to us. I wish we could continue just to pay respect for the nurses and the jobs that they do here in South Africa. But talking to us here on the program was Tadani Mahlangu, who is the Gauteng MEC for Health, and Jolene Mfenyana, who is an Assistant Manager for Trauma at Charlotte Mateka Academic Hospital. The issues on South African nurses are massive, but today we celebrate them because it is International Nurses Day. Let's take a break. See you after this.